Training purposes, you can uncover. 2 minutes. 2 minutes is all it takes to properly open a meeting. I know we're the riders, but we're still an official American Legion meeting. We do it to honor, respect, remember. The flag, our POWMIA, our prayer. 2 minutes. That'll come up later as we do the agenda, but I just want to show you, it's all it takes to start a meeting. I know everybody's time is valuable. We always say don't keep it longer than an hour, because after an hour people you lose them. But 2 minutes is not that long to respect and remember and honor those of us that we're here for, those of us that we remember, and those of them that are still fighting. This is the American Legion Rider Chapter purpose: to promote motorcycle safety programs and to provide a social atmosphere for members of the American Legion Auxiliary, and the Sons of the American Legion. To participate in parades. This is actually kind of our motto. A lot of people use this for, like, we don't actually have a preamble for the riders. You could use this as your preamble. When people sit down, use this instead of that. To use our association to promote and support the programs of the American Legion family. I know Jane hit on it, and perfect timing, she walked in. Remember, one of the reasons you're here as a rider is your membership as either a Legionnaire, an Auxiliary, or a Sons. They're our prime membership in the American Legion. Those memberships are the ones that let us be riders and enjoy what we do. So when we say to use our association to promote and support, remember, if they have a function going on, you're still an auxiliary member. You're still a Legionnaire. You're still a Son. You still should be supporting their events, not just our own. Because you could be dual, tri, and I know there are some quad members in the Legion. We're going into the duties of the director. Do we have any new directors here? First year directors? Awesome. You are the chief administrative officer, just like if you were a Legionnaire commander, a unit president, a Sons commander. You're the chief officer of the meeting. One thing about the director a lot of people forget is, remember, you're just there to run the meeting. You're there to keep calm. You're there to keep it running in order. You serve as liaison to the executive committee. Because remember, we are a program of the post. You should be either you should be at outpost meetings, or somebody in your chapter should be at outpost meetings. Because your post wants to know what you guys are doing. What are you raising money for? What events do you have coming up? Supervise all affairs. Remember, if something great happens, it's the chapter. If something bad happens, sorry, it's on your shoulders. But it's just like anything else. Whether what business you're in, that's what happens. You coordinate with the other officers of the chapter, the district, the area, and the department. One of the things I hear a lot is a lot of districts. Where's District 5? District 5 holds a collaboration meeting with other VSOs, with other chapters, not just district meetings, because you guys do a meeting almost every month. So they know what events are going on. They support the other chapters in their district. They ride with other chapters in their district. They attend events. They help them do 50-50s, car washes, poker runs. And of course you have to submit a report. Remember, we're still a business. We need to report our hours, our money raised, who we donate to, just like any other business. Remember, the American Legion is still a business module. We still have to answer to somebody. We still have to report things. Assistant director, you're there for the director. You do everything the director needs, especially if they're not available. You run the meeting. Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
This is all on the website and resources too, right?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. Everyone knows our website, floridalegion.org. There's something you guys might know because you're like, oh, I go to the auxiliary website, or I go to the SAL website. You don't have to, and I'll tell you why. If you go to floridalegion.org and scroll all the way to the bottom, there's an auxiliary icon, there's an SEL icon. If you click on those icons, guess where it takes you to? It takes you to the auxiliary site. It takes you to the Sun site. In floridalegion.org, under resources, under training, well, we have programs also, the American Legion Riders. Yeah, so under programs, under American Legion Riders, which is one of the things that happened this year, is they moved Riders to the top, just adding American Legion in front of it, so we're top of the list in programs. Thank you, Joker and Verna. You go in there and it'll have all these categories with training, the summit, the merry-go-round, the round robin, the Unity Ride. The Unity Ride's hotels and routes are already on there. So floridalegion.org website is very informative. You should go on there once a week because there's always changes, there are always additions. Your role is to keep the membership informed. It's one thing I want to add to that as a director, as assistant director, any leadership position there is. One thing you have to remember as you're up there is some meetings get lengthy, confrontational. One thing I want you to remember, there's a thing called practice the pause. If you get aggravated, upset, emotional, judgy, take a moment before you speak, because words that are spoken, you can't take back. Practice the pause, and that's anybody. That's even if you're, making a motion and then it starts getting to the discussion, what happens there. Fires get heated. Practice the pause. Follow up, follow through, praise versus criticize. It's great to always praise. People are always asking for that. Not asking for it, let me change that. It's always good to hear. Be an ambassador. I know I'm going to pick on you again. Your installation, in the rider's installation when you're given your charges, the one thing that we say is we are members of each entity, but we're also the 80-mile-per-hour billboard. When you put that vest on, because what does that vest say? It says American Legion. You're ambassadors for your chapter, your unit, your squad. They see American Legion, they just think of the whole family. Wear it with pride. Watch your tone, expression. That goes to the practice the pause thing. Remember, people are watching you, especially as director. You're their leader. They elected you to run their chapter. One of the things we learned during classes is the reason members don't return is because they don't feel valued. They don't feel respected. Remember, as soon as a member gets in there, you need to engage them from day one. If you like doing reports, man, I really could use someone to do reports. If you like to set up rides, awesome. Hey, I can do fundraisers. Use them. Engage them from day one. Make them feel valued and what they're good at and what their passion is. Use it. Respect is to be earned. Lead by example. As the director, what should you do before the meeting? Set an agenda. Just like with a post or a unit or a squadron, the director or the commander or president use their adjutant or secretary. Remember, you have a secretary also because you need it to have a chapter. Use them. They're there to help you set an agenda, let you know what's coming up, maybe what's something missed. A great example is I hear a lot of secretaries after the meeting, they'll send out the minutes, but then 3 weeks later, they'll send the minutes again so that it refreshes you. So you know what's been tabled or what's old business or what needs to be talked about again. Events that are coming up to remind you. I'm gonna use the Unity Ride over and over because that's something that's coming up in April. Hey, you gotta book your rooms. Hey, you got to check the route out, make sure you're all set, make sure your bike's ready, or your car, or your trike, if you take 2, 3, or 4 wheels, I don't care. The agenda should be straightforward and to the point. Again, you want something already lined up because you only want to use maybe an hour to keep your chapter engaged. Assure all areas are covered. The agenda should develop the desired outcome of the meeting. If you wanna make sure everybody's, like you have a dinner coming up, hey, I need to make sure I have volunteers. Do you wanna wash dishes? Do you wanna cook? Do you wanna serve? Make sure whatever, and I just use that as an example, whatever you want to be finalized at the meeting, make sure it's in your agenda, and make sure you finalize it before you leave the meeting. You don't like any unfinished business when you leave, especially if it's coming up soon. Again, the old unfinished business from the previous month, new business, and for the good of the riders. You always want that because you always like to hear good things too. Hey, we just came out of Summit, we learned all this new stuff, we get to go see people. I think of Summit Convention as conference as family reunions. I only get to see you guys 3-4 times a year. This is one of them. And I tell you, the first 3 hours you're here, what are you doing? Hugging and hi, how you doing? And oh my goodness, let's go have a drink or let's go do this. You know what? It's great. Because it's one of the reasons we joined the Legion. Whether it's, again, a Legion, I'm sorry, what do we join the Legion for? It's the camaraderie. It's what we have in similar. What we all do for each other. Why we're here. This is one of the reasons why we're here. Not just to learn, but to fellowship. Yes, I'm using your word, because I love that word. Any questions so far? Once the agenda is assembled, who should you send it to? The riders, of course. And your post-executive board and commander. See, this is why I wish it had those secondary ones where it stops. Why should you post it? Again, the riders is a post program. Your commander and executive board want to know what you guys are doing. Because again, as much as we need to do for them, they want to be there for us. Communication is key. These slides are all on the department website. And the reason I say that is because some of these I'm going to skip because I can't read it from here. I know you're not going to be able to read it from there. But a great thing to have is an agenda when you walk into the meeting with everything lined up. So you can literally just, it's kind of like a checklist. So you can just go off as you're going through your meeting. All right, so part of the meeting protocol is an actual motion process. And the reason we go over this is because some people are very lax and don't actually do the proper protocol, so we want to actually let you guys know this is the actual way you're supposed to present an actual motion. If someone has a motion, they should raise their hand, they should stand up, they should acknowledge who they are. Remember, you might have new members, and it's the same thing whether you're at a post meeting, a unit meeting, a squadron meeting, a district meeting, our summit opening, it should all be the same. You might not know everybody. You should stand up as the chair addresses you. You should state your name, and because we're at summit, your chapter number. Let them know where you're at. Hey, I'm Pops from chapter 283. I move that we speed this up. I just had to do something funny. It's sexy. But the same thing. The second should be the same. And the reason being is because remember, not all, and I'm going to use the word secretaries or adjutants, know everybody in the audience. Like, I know you people. Like, I'm just going to use me. I know you people, but I don't remember first and last names. Sometimes you forget that, especially like when you're riding around, you're like, okay, Connie, yes, okay, Wall. All right, Wall, what's your real name? You know? Because we all have our names on there. Sometimes you don't remember that. And it's important to have very precise minutes. And it doesn't matter, again, if you're, and I'll say it over and over again, it doesn't matter if you're chapter, unit, squadron, or post. Minutes are very important and crucial. And you want to make sure your secretary or adjutant, because I know you guys call them different, knows exactly who states the motion, who seconds it, and then of course you go through discussion. And once that goes through, the chair puts the motion to the vote, and it's finalized. That's it, you're done. Any questions? And pretty much as we just stated, the 8 steps. The member rises and addresses the chair recognizes, member states the motion, another member seconds it. The chair states the motion so that everyone understands it. There's a good test out there that I could say something and you could receive it as 3 different things. Make sure everyone understands the motion. Like we want to, I move that we go to a non-smoking post. Someone seconds it, the chair states, Jessica says, she moves to go to a non-smoking post, that one seconded. Someone says, okay, what does that include? Vaping? Does that include chew? You wanna make sure you have it exact. You have your discussion, and then the chair asks for the vote. Here's where it gets tricky. Does everyone here know how to table a motion? No? Awesome. I'm gonna read this through, and I'm sorry if you can't read them all, because again, the slides are kind of small. If a motion comes into play, and I'm just gonna use the non-smoking one, for instance, and the membership doesn't want to fully talk about it after a little bit of discussion, someone can table it. Especially if you need more clarification, like what's the rules? Like we gotta check some laws to see if this is applicable to our post, to our canteen, to our unit. So if you're in the middle of discussion and someone says, hey, we need to table it, once it is tabled and you have to have a second, it is not debatable, it's not amendable, and it does require a majority vote. Did everybody follow that, or do you want me to repeat it? It cannot, once it's made, the motion is made to table a motion, and it is seconded, again, there is no discussion, you can't change it, and you must have a majority vote. Yes, sir?
So what happens if you don't get majority vote?
Then you continue on the discussion, and you finish the motion that's on the floor.
How do you bring it off the table?
That'll be next, sir. Yes, Pops?
Can a director or any officer make a motion?
A director cannot. Remember, the director is your chief administrative officer, just like a post commander. They cannot make a motion, and they cannot vote on it unless there's a tie.
What about assistant?
Assistant can, because there's part of the membership of your chapter.
I thought that's what it was, but I want to make sure.
Oh, did you have a question there? Oh, I heard, Yes, sir.
Can a director break a tie of the majority?
That's what I say, yeah. If there is a tie, the director that's the only time a director can make a vote on a motion. Yes.
Yeah, in answer to your question, I think I know what you're getting at. So a director or a commander can say, I will entertain a motion of, and then hint floor, and then,
Yeah,
then they would make the
but
motion.
they can't actually physically make the motion. Right. Good? Good? If the pending motion is not brought back from the table at the next meeting, the motion dies. So that's very crucial why I say about the minutes are very important. So let's say we make the motion this time, let's make this Holiday Inn Hotel a non-smoking hotel. Joe says, no, I want to table that motion. I want to see what the rules are here. Lynn says, okay, I second it. All in favor, I get a majority vote, stops. At our next immediate meeting, that needs to come up. And if it does not come up, that motion is almost like it's null and void. It never happened.
But it could be brought up again.
It should be brought up at the next meeting, yes. And that's why minutes are important.
That's part of our unfinished business, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Also, why I good agenda for the next meeting underneath unfinished business.
Yep. Yes.
Absolutely. Yep. Any other questions on that? I don't know why Beverly added this, but let's get, all right, so now that you have your agenda, you know how to properly run the meeting, You have your proper protocol as far as the opening. Let's get it started. Procedure. And I showed you at the beginning. Again, it's very important. Remember, remembrance, honor, respect. Of course, 1 rap to be seated, door secured, sergeant at arms secure. 3 raps as everybody stand. Nations of the color in place, hand salute, uncovered, chaplain prayer. And I open it like that because again, we are still part of the meeting. We're still in a meeting, we're still a business. They still deserve the same respect no matter what meeting we're in. This is still an official American Legion family meeting. If you go to your officer's guide, and you can pull it up online also under resources, forms and documents, officer's guide, the procedure for and I'm gonna use Legion meeting, are in there. And it shows these steps, the RAPs, the sergeant at arms, the POW, and the actual script stated for that. Sergeant at arms will lead the Pledge of Allegiance, you cover, and then 1 RAP to be seated. I now declare American Legion Riders, Department of Florida, regular convened. Adjutant Secretary, roll call of officers. Again, this is small, but I do like these up. Sergeant at arms, are there any guests or new members to be introduced? Again, they're new, this might be their first time there, or they're a guest seeing what your chapter's about. You want them engaged, you want them recognized, and you want everybody else to know that they're there. Like we have a department president, Jane Hardacre here this morning, sorry. We have our department chaplain, Barry Roberts, here today. We have our department legislative chair, Scott. His name is Stuart Scott, I just had to say that, he knows why. I think I got everybody. Joe Marchigiani, our District 5 commander, 6, I'm sorry. It's close.
Yep,
Yeah.
right next door.
Right next door, yes. Officers and committee chairman reports. Again, the agenda is important, so you can go right through these, and having this listed on there helps you, because you just pretty much check off as you go.
And you can change that, right?
To what?
As a director, I'm actually the last one that does the reports.
You can have it any way you like.
Right.
You can do it the opposite way. You can have your QM go first, then your event coordinator, and you can do assistant director and director last. That way, because if you hear stuff, like let's say your QM says, hey, we're gonna, I'm talking about the dinner we have there. As a director, you're like, okay, I don't have to talk about that dinner. We have your road captain says, hey, we did the poker run to Golisano's Children's Hospital. We had 10 riders, we donated $10,000. Director's like, okay, I don't have to talk about that. So you can put that in any order you'd like. This is just a recommendation. And again, these things are all online. FloridaLegion.org. Programs, first one, American Legion Riders. I keep saying that.
There's a class for that.
What's that?
There's a class for that.
There's a class for that. I know, I'm just, yeah, that's not something I talk about, nope. When you get up to, if you have any vacant officer positions, because remember, you still have to have your so many officers to start a chapter and continue a chapter. Again, there's a class for that. Older unfinished business, again, new business, that's where new business and correspondence, go to the American Legion Riders. Is there any other business? 3 raps to the gavel, and we'll close it properly also. Any questions so far on the procedures?
I got one.
Absolutely.
If you have a guest, is it a special way, do you introduce them before you do your roll call, or after you do your opening first?
Mm-hmm.
And then can you introduce the guests right then, or do your roll call first?
That is totally up to you as a director. If you want your special guest to be outside and escorted in, or if you want your special guest to attend the meeting, you can present them at any time. You can do it after we do the opening and you wrap the gavel and say, hey, just so you know, we have a special guest here today. They'd like to address our chapter. So-and-so, please be escorted up by the Sergeant at Arms, you know, whichever. Or if you want them to stay for the meeting and have them at the end, entirely up to you. You can do it, we just put a standard here for these things to follow. Your opening, your reports, your business, correspondence, go to the writers, and adjournment. Yes, sir?
You don't want your guests there for the financial report, though, do you?
No, and that's why a lot of guests are not in the room. But again, that's entirely up to your chapter.
And
Yes, sir.
it should be
So, I
public
just-
record anyway.
For what he
Oh,
said,
I'm sorry.
so, when you look at the Legion Officer Guide, and the script is the Sergeant at Arms introduce guests before the meeting is in full swing. You introduce the guests, and you let the guests speak, escort them in, let the guests speak, escort them out before we get to the business.
Right.
And the F-bombs start dropping, so we don't want the guests in there for that.
There should be no F-bombs in the meeting, sir.
Yeah. Welcome to my meeting.
Like I said, there shouldn't be, but again, those things could happen.
But with no guests.
No guests, no guests,
No guests.
no guests, practice the pause.
But I wrote that down. That's my first note from your class.
Practice
Practice the pause.
the
I
pause.
got it too.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, because that's the one thing, that's the one thing, as soon as you hear something, you're like, you,
Practice the pause.
yep, guilty.
If you practice the pause, you won't have those cuts on your arm.
Again, at the finish, you uncover, chaplain will lead you some prayer, cover. It's just like any other meeting. Again, it's just following the script. Because again, it's remembrance, honor, respect.
That's a question right there.
Yes,
So I asked Jim about it. Why did they not retrieve the MIA?
today,
Yes,
because we dismissed it and we will reconvene on Saturday afternoon.
right, and he told
We-
me that.
yes,
I
and
didn't,
it's-
I didn't know that was part of it.
Yes, if you have a full meeting, you do the opening and closing. If you're a meeting and you break it into 2 days or 2 sessions, perfect example, like any other convention or conference, we start in the morning, we break for lunch, so we actually pause, and then we reconvene. All we have to do is stand and salute. We don't have to do the full POWMA ceremony. But in a meeting, it's usually start to finish in that time allotted that you're there.
Got it?
Good question, Pops.
Yeah, well, he told me to ask you.
It's okay. Again, this is a sample of an agenda that, again, they have online that you can follow. That's 2 things I hate about the PowerPoint. I didn't create it, I'm sorry. I can't read it, I know you can't either. But again, it just runs right through it. You call to order, your opening ceremonies, your roll call, new members, guests, minutes, finance report, and again, it's up to your chapter. I've been to meetings where the whole family is in. Not just, and I'll say a Legion meeting, where auxiliary, SAL, writers, they're all there. So it's up to remember, posts are still autonomous, and we follow our post. So your writers are autonomous. It's up to you guys how you want to do it. These are guidelines to follow, that you should be following as far as, so it's there, I'm trying to find the right word, sorry.
Content,
Huh?
content.
Yes, thank you. Do practice the pause. Because it can get overheated. Like I heard somebody say, I was traveling with the National Vice Commander last week, and I will say this. She always said, you know what, we're family. Families fight. We can't decide on dinner, we can't decide on dessert, we can't decide where to go. Families fight. And what is the American Legion? A family. We will fight, we will not all get along. We all have differences of opinions. It's gonna happen. Try to allow only one person to speak at a time. When you're in a meeting and someone across from the room, let's say Barry is talking, and this gentleman's talking to me, I have no idea what Barry said. I couldn't hear him. Respect whoever has the floor. You called upon them as a director. You recognize them, give them the chance to speak. You hear a lot of overlaps. I make a motion, blah, 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 someone else gets up, blah, 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 and then this one's like, no. Let them each speak, let them each have their time. Everyone has their own opinion. You have to respect their opinion. Limit lengthy, non-productive discussions or comments. You know, you hear a lot of times in meetings, you know, as your discussions go on and on and on, and then you hear the same thing over and over and over, and then you hear in the back, call the question. That's why. Don't get it too lengthy. Again, you really only want an hour. You don't need a 15-minute discussion on one motion. You have a lot of other stuff in your agenda. I don't like to use the word moving on, but it's kind of, shut up, let's move on. In a nicer way. Keep your chapters morale, motivation, enthusiasm up. Remember why we're here. We are one family, but we all have one mission. We're here for the American Legion family. We are to raise money for our charities. But the one thing about the riders, some of you might want to close your ears. We get to do it for fun because this is what we love to do. Who doesn't love getting on their motorcycle with their vest on? Who doesn't love just to get up and go for a ride? We get to do it for fun. We don't have to be at the chapter at the house. We can go from chapter to chapter to chapter and say, hey, we're on a ride. We get to do the Univ ride. We get to do the round robin, the merry-go-round. That's a class later on. But we get to do it for fun. They created this group for like-minded individuals of our family to get to be the billboard and wear this vest. Keep your chapters, morale, motivation, enthusiasm on. Do fun things. Yes, you have to do dinners and you have to do raffles, but do your poker runs. Do the things you love to do. Show respect for all members. Again, we're family. We don't like everybody. I really do, but they're there for the same reason you are. We have one mission. One team. American Legion family. Increase participation. When they get to your meetings, have them involved. Have them engaged. Use them. Use them for what they value the most, what their passions are. We have electricians. You know, really you should help on this. We've got this project coming up. We're helping a veteran's family. They're redoing some stuff in their house. We'd love to have you help out. Get them with what they love to do, and their participation will grow. Don't go about other business when someone else has the floor. Joke and joke. Let's talk about the Unity ride. Did you see the finance report lately? You know. Again, respect what they want to talk about. Don't drag out the meeting. Again, members' time is valuable. Letting people ramble yourself, and gossip. Yes, again, we're family. And we don't like each other. What's the point? What does that do to help us by talking about other people? You got a canteen out there to do it. Do it after the meeting. Go somewhere else and do it. We don't have, there's the other two words that are really, or three words, excuse me, that are really big: time and place. The meeting is not the time and place for BS. Clint?
Assistant Director, Post 240, by the way.
Thank you.
What about the crosstalk during the meeting? What's the best way to handle that? 'Cause a lot of people get away with all kinds of comments and things like that.
Go back a couple of screens, it said, you know, respect the person who has the floor. And if someone starts talking and say, the chair recognized Clint, please listen to what he has to say. It's easy as that. You know, sometimes they don't like hearing it, but sometimes you have to do that. Remember, you're the one running the meeting. You have to keep the meeting under control.
At times too, who's ever running the meeting and that goes on, you just shut up and look at it. You know, and then they'll,
I can
see
do that.
ideas.
I got plenty of them.
That's about you do what you can, right? You do what you can.
There you go.
Each and everyone's time is valuable. Still a meeting. We still have business to run. Again, there's plenty of time to chat afterwards. Something to think about. When a person's actions or attitudes contradict their words, we tend to discount what they have said. Any questions on that? Again, I always say, practice the pause. Something I just came up with this week when I was reading something, I was like, I can add that. Practice the pause. You know, if I'm talking about Unity Ride, I'm like, yeah, you know, we got the Unity Ride coming up, don't forget to do your hotels, you know. You're not gonna be listening to me. Because if I'm not enthusiastic about it, why would you be? Man, I just came back from Summit, you guys all should have went, you guys missed out on a great training session. Guess what, I bet a lot of your chapter members are gonna go next year and go, oh, I gotta see what that's all about. Remember, your actions and the way you portray them, I call it a sneezer. You're a sneezer. Are you gonna be a good one or a bad one? Talking about your experiences or what's coming up. I'm ahead of the game. Woohoo! Your experience, past directors, anybody want to add anything as far as meetings? Any questions?
I like that, so.
Absolutely, Jeff. Joe Marchigiani, District.
Joe Marchigiani, District 6. Past writers chairman, past writers director, past post commander. Don't go negative in the meeting. A lot of directors get up there, commanders get up there, they go negative in the meeting. All the people that are at the meetings, those are your helpers. Those are the people that come every day. Those are the people that come every week. You don't want to go negative on them. Okay? A lot of people just twist and they start to go negative because they want to get the message across, but then they're ranting to the choir. You know, don't go negative on your membership that's sitting there in the meeting. Do that at the EC board and go another way. To this guy who said, how do you get somebody's attention? I'm a retired teacher. You freaking throw something at him. I don't like it.
Someone said I throw something at every meeting, and I haven't thrown anything today.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yes, Joe.
I think that's against the law.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this class. I do have one closing thing. Oh, Jack, post chapter 90.
Yeah, Jeff Fitzgerald,
I got you.
elections
Yes.
coming up. What's the proper way to do elections?
You follow what your post guidelines are, because you're still a program of the post. And the reason I say that is because I can tell you what my chapter does, I can tell you what his chapter does, and I can tell you what his chapter does. I bet they're all 3 different ways. However your post does elections, that's how you should follow. Whether it's, and I say March, you start talking to people, April, you start making nominations, May you decide, however you do it, or however your post does it. A lot of times in chapters, it's, hey, I've been the director for 3 years, someone else want to take your place? He laughs because he knows I'm right.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else? There's 2 things I just want to add. SurveyMonkey, like Bev was talking about, please use it when you get home. That's how we talk about, for next year's summit. Like she had mentioned a couple of things. She talked about emblem sales. She talked about why we meet in Orlando. Again, the summit is for riders classes. I understand a lot of people want to ride. The one thing that was great about Cocoa Beach is, remember, we got to ride, but it was a benefit and a bonus for us. We were there during the day for classes. So I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Jessica Moore. I used to say last year, if you didn't like my class, it's somebody else's name, but they're not here, so I can't use it this year. So if we are all finished, if I could ask you to cover. I'll wrap the gavel 3 times to stand. I know I said it, but that way everyone's ready. I'm going to ask you to uncover. Chaplain, would you offer a closing prayer?
Father, we thank you for this opportunity to learn more about how to run our meetings. Lord, we just ask that as we take this back to our chapters, that we better understand the decorum that is necessary. We ask that you fulfill the rest of our day with more knowledge and to continue to bless us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please recover. As we don't have a POW MIA chair, I will just say as colors are in nation in place, hands salute. 2. And now this training session is adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thanks.